What is going on, ballers? It's your boy MJ coming at you with Joe the Birdman here with another episode of Fantasy Fumble. If you're just tuning in here, guys, this is week 14. We got a lot of great stuff in store for you. But first, Joe, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, Manny. Still hanging on in a couple leagues. Doesn't look great, but I'm technically still in playoff contention. And I clinched a bye in 2 leagues, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Absolutely. I see you're near the top of my leagues as well, man. You've been limping to the finish line, I think, in one of them.
Dude, that one, it's just, sometimes it comes down to the matchup, and I'm not trying to be an asshole to rub it in. I just think it's kind of funny that when I play these other teams, I don't bring my A game, but neither do they. They bring the B team, and sometimes it's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah,
and I've gotten lucky, man.
You know, both years I won the chip in both my leagues. I was coming in and anywhere from the 5th to 6th seed, So it's not how you start, fellas, it's how you finish. So we're gonna go ahead and get into that here for the show today. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Hey there, my name is Manny James Gonzalez with PRB, and I'm a real estate agent here in Central Florida. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, military relocation pro, and big supporter of 2A and veterans' rights. My specialty is VA transactions. I'm also experienced in all parts of real estate.
I've been living in Florida for over 20 years, and I can tell you we still believe in freedom down here. One of the greatest job markets, excellent economy, and no state income tax. When it comes to an agent, you want one that's going to be honest, not afraid of a fight, and most importantly, willing to do the things that some agents aren't willing to do.
And what's that, Manny?
Shoot straight, Dan. If you're ever considering buying in Central Florida, you need somebody you can trust, and I got your 6. I'm Manny James Gonzalez, buying land for the free and home for the brave.
Welcome back, ballers. Let's get into some news and notes. As many of you saw, Amon-Ra St. Brown hurt his ankle and he did not practice today. His status is up in the air, but it's not looking good for week 14. Same applies for Drake London. He's considered day-to-day with a knee injury. And Marvin Harrison Jr., who just came back, exited the game against Tampa Bay with a heel injury. So keep an eye on that. And a wide receiver on the Packers, Jaden Reed, is practicing but has not been cleared to play. And wide receiver T. Higgins is still going through the concussion protocol, but he plays, you play him. Vikings running back Aaron Jones is considered day-to-day due to the shoulder injury. Running back Amarian Hampton is expected to play in week 14. We thought he might play last week, but he is looking good for this week. And quarterback Justin Herbert underwent surgery on Monday to repair a fracture in his hand. But from the interview I saw, he sounds like he's ready to go. It's not his throwing hand. So keep an eye on him. It's something that could definitely still affect his play. We saw Aaron Rodgers get affected by that, but Justin Herbert's on a little bit higher level this year. And quarterback Jaden Daniels has not been cleared for contact yet, but he is getting back on the field. Quarterback JJ McCarthy is not having any concussion symptoms and is expected to be the starting quarterback in week 14. It's a breath of fresh air, I guess, after what we saw last week. And
Max Brosmer, remember I looked him up on, before I seen any news articles on him, we looked him up. Max Brosmer ended up starting, and we talked about this on Tuesday. So keep in mind the reports came out Wednesday, guys. So, I was on point for that. Don't.
Dude, I didn't think it could get worse, and it could. And some more comedy from the Vikings. Adam Thielen was claimed off waivers by the Steelers. So that's par for the course for the Steelers, man. I can't.
Stay the hell away from that wide receiver core, guys.
Anyway, that's it. That's it for the news and notes. It's just, basically the injuries that you're all aware of. You got to keep an eye on those guys getting into week 14.
Oh yeah, and I'm excited for Hampton coming back, baby. That's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Uh,
and Bucky came back strong. I was expecting Hampton to do the same thing. I'm sure he's going to do it this week. If they're ready to go, these coaches know what they're doing. They're ready to go. But let's get into some playoff sleepers.
what the fuck?
The first sleeper I want to talk about is a guy I mentioned last week that you should pick up, and that's Jaden Reed. Green Bay has been awesome this year, and Jordan Love does spread the ball around a good bit. So it's hard to say who the best wide receiver is going to be. Romeo Doubs was reliable until Christian Watson came back, and since he's come back, it's been mostly Watson. But then last week it was Dontavian Wicks. So you just don't know. But for the most part, I believe if you look at last year and what Jaden Reed did, he could be the wide receiver one on Green Bay once he's back to 100%. And it could stay as Christian Watson. It could go back to Romeo Doubs. But like I said, just based on what we saw last year, he was the most consistent. He did have the most yards, most touchdowns. Doubs was really good last year too, but Jaden Reed was slightly better overall. So I'd pick him up. He's only rostered in 40% of ESPN leagues, and he's a good wide receiver to add if you have space on your roster. If you have an IR spot, just put him in the IR spot. They have Denver in week 15, which will be a tough matchup. But the other 3 games look pretty good. He's got Chicago twice and then Baltimore in week 17. So those are matchups that shouldn't be too difficult for Green Bay. And again, if Jaden Reed's healthy, I could see him just climbing to the top of the chart and being Jordan Love's favorite target.
Yeah, I can see how that happens. He definitely was pretty good last year. Like he's definitely a solid floor, decent ceiling, right? You're not looking for more than 15 to 20 from the guy, but for someone you're just plucking off the waiver wire, definitely huge value there.
Oh yeah.
So somebody maybe people believe it was a fluke. He's not going to do it again, but I think that he will be a solid like RB2 for the rest of the year, and that's RJ Harvey. He came on last game with limited touches. I mean, the guy only last 2 games, he's gotten 24 touches. So that means 12 a game, right? Like that's not a lot at all. That's just on running. Obviously, receptions, he had 7 targets, and he came up with 6 out of those 7 targets. So he's been super solid. Somebody that I love as far as like low value. Obviously, you're not going to, most of the deadlines have come and gone, so not necessarily somebody you could actually trade for unless your leagues are like mine. I do a later later trade deadline. Solid floor, high ceiling. If he gets 15 to 17 touches, I'm super happy with him here on out.
Yeah, and like you said, he does a lot. He's very productive with limited touches. It's been that way for like over a month now, where he's not getting a lot of volume. Mm-hmm. But man, the amount of production off of those limited touches has been very impressive. They use him on the goal line, and I think he's going to get more touches over the next month. So I definitely agree with that. Now, I have a long shot I'm just throwing out there because I'm in this situation, and I'm just thinking out loud. If you are in a league that has 3 wide receiver spots or 2 flex spots, and you really digging deep and you need a receiver, I think you should take a look at Devon Vele. Like I said, it's a long shot, but in his second game with New Orleans, he looked fantastic. He was a 7th round pick last year and buried on the depth chart in Denver. So he really hasn't had many opportunities, but he looked really comfortable as the wide receiver 2 behind Olave. And he's obviously widely available on waivers. He's probably rostered in like 1 or 2% of leagues. And he seems to have good rapport with Tyler Shuck. I would pick him up and stash him on your bench just to see if he can replicate what he did last week. And if you see it 2 weeks in a row, I mean, you should probably be confident to play him the 3rd week. So just keep an eye on him. Again, if you've got a deep bench or you're just desperate for a wide receiver or a flex, I think he's worth a pickup.
Yeah, and I too agree. He's definitely hit or miss, right? Like The one thing that I think people should know as well, they traded away their second best receiver, right? They traded him away to Seattle. Rashid Shaheed, he's been, he was solid with New Orleans, but they decided to move away from him. They sent him to Seattle, and that is because they must really believe in Vele. And then obviously he did show it this last game for sure. So I think it is definitely a nice value pick.
That's a great point. If they're willing to trade away Rashid Shaheed, who was relatively productive, that says a lot about what they see in Vele. Now let's get into our hot matchups. No, that's cold. That's cold.
Oh, that's cold.
The fire.
Okay.
Oh, that's the fire that you're getting close to the fire.
Too hot.
Why don't you kick things off with your hot matchup?
All right, my hot matchup here. It's a divisional game, AFC South, baby. It's going to be Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, Vegas has one of the highest projected point totals. They have them at 48.5 points. Obviously, I know historically these two teams, when they play each other, is really good defense. And Colts and both Colts and Jags have had some really solid defenses this year. But I think that this one might be a little bit different because both are jockeying for that playoff spot, right? They're both trying to fight for that wild card. And then at the end of the day, whoever loses this probably ends up losing the wild card potential, right? Obviously, because they'll have like a game and a half lead. But it's, at the end of the day, I'm looking forward on Indy's side. Daniel Jones been averaging PPR 20 points a game. JT, obviously, 25 to 27 range. He's had some bombs in there, like big old nukes he's dropped on the opponents, right? We're talking about 30, 40-point games. TJ Warren's also somebody I like, tight end. Great rapport with Daniel Jones. He's getting about 15 a game. And then obviously Alec Pierce is somebody that's come on recently and showing that he could be a really good flex, especially in an emergency spot if you do have a bye week this week. Now, obviously, Jacksonville side, Brian Thomas, he's somebody that, is bouncing back from injury, so he could have a great game or not so great. Travis Etienne, great flex / RB3. He's getting you 15 a game. And then receiver room, number one option for Trevor Lawrence besides BTJ. I think it goes down. Second option is Jacoby Myers, who's a stud flex play. And then, of course, his tight end, Bretton Strange, because everybody remembers what he did with, Ingram when he was over there. He was his top target. So I just think, overall, if he's available on a wire, he's going to have a nice, juicy matchup for the rest of the year. So somebody's going to get you really good point totals.
That's a great call with Brenton Strange. He probably is available in give or take 50% of leagues and well worth a pickup because he's looked good. He's been consistent when, he was injured for a little while, but when he's on the field, he's looked really good and he looked great last week too. Jacoby is definitely a stud. And, if Brian Thomas Jr. plays, you got to keep in mind that Parker Washington is out. So they might get a few more targets than normal too, because Parker Washington was taking some of those targets away. So I know Brenton Strange is back in the mix, but I feel like all three of those guys are reliable enough. And honestly, even Trevor Lawrence, if you're in a desperate spot, he's worth a start too. I picked him up a couple of weeks ago as a spot start and he did really well. And then on the other side of the ball, of course, the Colts are going to come to play. They're one of the best offenses in the league. They've had some ups and downs, but they're the kind of team that has that talent that will quickly correct itself. And as you know, I have JT as a number one for the rest of the season, and I have Daniel Jones in a couple leagues too, and I'm playing him. I'm confident in this game. Again, despite the defense, I totally agree. I just feel like the offense is going to outweigh that defense. Now, for my hot matchup, I have the Bengals versus the Bills. I mean, it's a similar situation, except for the Bengals have no defense. Both of these teams have legit offensive weapons. The Bengals defense is absolutely terrible all around. The Bills have a great pass defense and an absolutely horrible run defense. And I just feel like the offenses for both of these teams will be too much for the defenses either way. similar situation as the Colts in Jacksonville. I feel like just the offense is going to just override the defense. And Josh Allen and James Cook are must starts. Don't worry about any recent troubles. Josh Allen's obviously a must start. Like the last 2 weeks have been a little rough. We have seen a handful of duds, but you don't really have to think about that too much. You just put him in, you start him, no questions asked. And I think Dalton Kincaid is a must start if he's healthy too, because when that guy's healthy, he's kind of the number one receiver. He's at least the most reliable. So I would definitely play Dalton Kincaid if he's healthy. Right now, he's questionable. We thought we were going to see him last week, but they didn't play him. I do think he's going to be ready to go this week. And then for the Bengals, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, of course, are all must starts. And if T. Higgins plays, even if they say he's limited, I'd plug him in. And again, I understand that the Bills defense is pretty good against the pass, but you've got so many options for Joe Burrow, and he does look like he's back. He looks like he's ready to go. And they are playing right now to survive. If they lose, they're done, completely done. So Joe Burrow's got to bring it, and so does everyone else on the team. And another thing I just wanted to mention is if you've been just picking up a different kicker every week, like I usually do, grab Evan McPherson, because he's probably on waivers in a lot of leagues, and he's been very consistent, and he actually put up 24 points last week. So I think if you're in need of a kicker, or you're just picking up a new one every week, see if McPherson's available, because he's going to put up points again this week.
Yeah. And just touch up on that. Definitely. I agree. All those points there, right? Two high octane offenses. Obviously, okay, middle of the pack to bad defenses. One of the guys I think, obviously, Khalil Shakir was mentioned a little bit. He tends to have some pretty big games when they're going up against lesser pass defenses, right? So I expect him to definitely be a solid flex. And at the other side, if you have any Bengals receiver, right? For example, if T. Higgins doesn't come back, Yavos, what is it?
Yoshivas or
Yoshivas, that's perfect.
Yoshivas.
Yoshivas, he's going to be somebody that, last week he's been getting like 10 points a game. But obviously now with Joe Burrow back, I think that's going to be even better for him. So he's somebody that you could spot start on the emergency. If you have somebody like a DJ Moore who you can't predict what they're going to do, you want to make sure that you get that consistency from here on out, because these fantasy weeks are so crucial, because now the playoffs are starting and you want to make sure you're getting the best matchup, and it's not always going to be your superstar.
Yeah, Yoshivas is definitely worth a spot start if you need him. I would actually prefer, if T. Higgins doesn't play, I would actually prefer him over Khalil Shakir. I know what you're saying. You're right about Khalil Shakir, but he is, your typical boom bust. You really don't know what to expect. So I feel like a safer floor would be Yoshivas.
Now, let's get into the cold calls.
Oh, yeah. Now we can warm ourselves on the phone.
All right. Now, for my cold call, I went ahead and went with Tennessee versus Cleveland. Now, any game from here on out with Tennessee is going to be the cold call, I feel, because that team, unfortunately, is terrible. I mean, the offensive line is terrible. I mean, the quarterback, I love Cam Ward. I think he's going to be great. Obviously, he lost Calvin Ridley for the year. And they can't block to save his life. So he's actually taken the league lead in sacks total for the year. And then, of course, Cleveland, very well known for their defense. They're a top 3 defense all day. So they're going to completely shut Tennessee down, and you're going to see Myles Garrett get a lot closer to that 25 he's shooting for. Now, on the other side, Cleveland offensively, like the only star I like is Quinshon Judkins. I love Harold Fannin is a solid tight end at 12 points a game, solid floor, limited ceiling. But Judkins, 15 a game, you're going to start him no matter what. And then, of course, Cleveland defense, right? Those are the only 3 players I would start, but obviously cautiously, if possible. But they're going to definitely get you at least a solid floor.
Yeah, I love Judkins this week. I was actually the last few weeks I've been kind of down on Judkins just because his matchups weren't ideal, even against Baltimore because they're better on paper. And he proved me wrong. And he had a couple of those direct snaps where he scored immediately, like boom, boom, one touchdown after another. But I traded him away in one league, and I did have a lot of running back depth. But there's another league where I have a lot of running back depth, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, at this point, I'm going to start Judkins because he's proven me wrong a couple weeks in a row, and this is a really good matchup. So I really like him. But again, like you said, just because these offenses are so bad, that their ceiling is going to be a little lower than your typical offense. So high floor, not much of a ceiling. Now for my cold call, I have the Commanders versus the Vikings. Both of these teams have been struggling all season, and I think this is going to be another slop fest. Mariota has been okay, but the Commanders just don't put up points. Last week was a close game and a tough loss against Denver, but they've been getting crushed this year. So again, last week, 26 points. All right, that's not bad. But look at every game since mid-October. And I know injuries have hit them hard, but even with Jaden Daniels, they're really not that great of a football team. They have a running back committee that changes every week. You can't play any of those guys. McLaurin did surprisingly well in his first game back against Denver, but before he was injured, his numbers looked really bad. And Minnesota actually has a pretty good pass defense. Debo has been boom bust all season. He can be a flex play, but don't expect a high ceiling this week. Ertz has been somewhat reliable. He looked great last week, but he usually gets you about 8 to 10 points, which is fine for the tight end position. Similar to what you said about Fannin, like 10, 12. Yeah, you'll take that at tight end all day. But let's talk about the Vikings now. JJ McCarthy was so bad that, as we discussed last week, I actually thought their third string quarterback could be an improvement, but that was not the case at all. They got shut out, and it was against the Seahawks, who's a really tough defense, but they couldn't even muster up a field goal. The prior week, they only scored 6 points against the Packers, and they haven't gotten over 20 points since week 9. I'm benching Justin Jefferson in one league this week. I had Jordan Addison in like 4 or 5 leagues, and I dropped him in every one. I am hanging on to him in one of your leagues, actually, because I'm very desperate, and I'm hoping that maybe I can grab someone off the waiver wire and consider over Jordan Addison. Aaron Jones is banged up again, and he's still only a flex play at best when he's healthy, even against a weak Washington defense. And when Jones was injured, so let's say he goes out and Jordan Mason gets the full workload. We've seen this already this season, and he hardly did anything. He had one game with over 20 fantasy points and a couple games with about 10 to 12 points, which again is a flex play at best. So that offense altogether, even TJ Hawkinson, he had like 1 or 2 good games all season, and the rest have been terrible. The team is just really bad, and I want nothing to do with any player on the Vikings.
Going into the season, I actually graded Vikings players a lot lower because I expected JJ McCarthy to not be that great, right? All these people are buying all his rookie cards and, hyping it up. And unfortunately, it's just he's not putting it together yet. I think another year or two, maybe he's solid, but it doesn't look too good right now. But one thing I will say for sure, Jordan Mason, although he's not consistent, it is a great matchup, and he's probably available majority of the waiver wires. And I'm the type of guy, I always run running backs, as many as I can. So in my league, I'm a double flex league, so I'm always running 4 running backs from here on out because that's going to give you the most consistent floor. So like I said, I know you're not high on him, but I definitely think Jordan Mason's a good play this week. No one on the commies, unfortunately, so I agree with that, right? That's a committee backfield. Wide receivers can't get the ball because Marcus Mariota's, short range, West Coast offense type of guy, right? So he's probably the best play. And unfortunately, like you mentioned, Vikings defense is too good for them to really run it or get some rhythm. So it's going to be an ugly game to watch.
Most definitely. Now let's get into our shit calls. Now, for my shit call, about a month ago, it was during one of our trade target segments. I said, and this is both in the same segment, I said, try to get Rome Odunze and Jordan Addison. Rome Odunze, he's had one good game since that little segment that we did. And Jordan Addison has been dropped again, as I said, in a few of my leagues, in most of my leagues, he's been dropped. So obviously quarterbacks are a huge part of the problem, but I expected both of them to finish strong. I mean, if you look at the schedule for the Vikings, that's a recipe for success. But when your quarterback sucks, wide receivers can't perform. And Rome Odunze, I mean, honestly, that team looks great, but he's not getting the ball. And I don't know if that's Caleb Williams' thing or if they're just focusing more on the run. But it's kind of one of those teams where you just don't know who's going to pop off each week. And it hasn't been Rome Odunze. He's had one good game in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And, like I said, I expect him to finish strong. They're doing the exact opposite. So with that trade target segment, I completely shit the bed. If you made a trade for Rome Odunze and Jordan Addison, I hope they turn things around for you. But Addison probably belongs on waivers, and Rome Odunze, bench him until you see something.
Oh, and to add some insight too, so the Chicago Bears head coach Ben Johnson, coming from Detroit, I know most of us got frustrated over the last couple seasons if you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, because unfortunately he wasn't a regular part of the offense every single game, right? Some games, they would run it a lot of times and, control the clock, right? But unfortunately, Ben Johnson offenses historically have been inconsistent, right? So, I'm definitely, taking anything. I thought it might have been different when he took over a team, but unfortunately, he's still the same old Ben Johnson. He's going to put Lyman out there. He's going to put whoever out there to get that touchdown.
And they're winning games. So it's like, you can't fault him for it. It's just that for fantasy purposes, it's not ideal.
Exactly. Unless you have a running back from Chicago, then they just ate my Eagles up last week. So
that was surprising, man. Both of them.
Almost 300 rushing yards on the ground, man. That is a total shellacking.
Especially against the Eagles, that was surprising.
Now, it's that time of day we all hate.
You forgot to do your shit call.
Oh. It's Manny's shit call, the part that we hate.
We don't like the shit call either.
All right, so for my shit call, that's so funny because my shit call is actually starting DJ Moore last week. Very inconsistent. He's been the definition of boomer bust, right? You have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than you have of predicting when DJ Moore is going to have a good game, man. So it's funny that segue kind of took us to over here. But yeah, I think that, at this point forward, he's expendable. I'm actually going to drop him the one league that I have him in, and I'm not looking back, man. I just can't handle that heartbreak.
I understand, because if you play him and he shits again, you're going to be pissed off. He's a landmine.
Now, it's that time of the day we all hate. It's the end of the show. We really appreciate all the support, guys. We're actually getting close to wrapping up the season here. You guys are not going to need us much more after this, right? Pretty much your teams are locked in. But we'll make sure to still get you that regular content, guys. We appreciate the love. And Joe, you got something for them?
No, I just appreciate all the support. If you really do enjoy the content, subscribe. We're not going to be posting anything in the off season, so don't worry. You won't get any bullshit from us. Just maybe a couple highlights leading up to the playoffs or the Super Bowl or something. But we won't flood your inbox. So if you do enjoy the content we provided you with some useful information, please subscribe.
Yeah, and we'll be out of commission just from February till June, guys, because June training camps, already that's post-draft, right? So draft's in May, April or May, so that way everybody gets settled in. But regardless, like Joe says, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your mother, tell your grandmother, tell everybody you know. Tune in, and we'll see you here same time, same place, over here with Fantasy Sports Minds.